When you're looking at a big room shop, or a small auto garage, the first thing you hear is the whine of a cheap, single-stage compressor that stalls the minute you try to run two tools at once. I've been there spending a few $100s on a budget unit, only to watch the pressure gauge dip, hear the motor grind, and end up with a half-finished project and a dent in the wallet. The regret that follows is why I spend a lot of time comparing the low-end options with something that might feel like a smarter investment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Quincy QT10 Splash Lubricated Reciprocating Air Compressor isn't a flashy kitchen counter gadget. It's a 10 horsepower, 3-phase machine built for places that need a reliable, steady stream of air day after day. That's the kind of equipment you pull out when you're running a spray painting booth, feeding pneumatic tools on a production line, or keeping a fleet of tire inflation stations humming. If you've ever tried to power a sandblaster and a grinder off a 5 HP unit, and watched the pressure drop like a balloon with a slow leak, you'll understand why a 120-gallon tank and a splash lubricated design matter. First, let's talk about the everyday reality of a shop floor. Most of us don't run a single tool for an hour at a time. We rotate drills, impact wrenches, and maybe a paint gun in quick succession. The QT10's horizontal tank sits low enough to slide under a workbench, yet its 120-gallon capacity gives you a buffer that lets you finish a full coat of paint without the compressor kicking into recovery mode. In my own small metal fabrication space, that buffer translates into about 15 minutes of continuous air at 125 psi before the motor even has to kick in. That's the difference between finishing a job in one sitting or having to pause, listen to the motor roar back to speed, and then start again. The splash lubricated system is another practical point that often gets lost in the marketing copy. Unlike oil-free scroll compressors that claim maintenance-free, a splash system actually circulates a thin film of oil over the piston and cylinder walls. The result is quieter operation and longer life for the moving parts, especially when you're running a 3-phase 230-volt motor at its full 10 HP capacity. I've read that shops that run compressors 12 hours a day see a noticeable drop in noise levels compared with older, oil-free models, and the splash design helps keep that noise down without sacrificing durability. Who should consider buying this machine? If you run a medium-sized workshop, a small manufacturing line, or even a serious DIY garage that sees multiple tools running at once, the QT10 hits a sweet spot. It's also a good fit for businesses that need consistent pressure for processes like sandblasting, foam injection, or tire inflation stations where downtime is costly. The 3-phase requirement means you'll need a proper electrical setup, so if your shop only has single-phase power, you'll have to factor in the cost of a phase converter or a service upgrade. That's the first practical trade-off. The upfront electrical investment can be a hurdle for hobbyists or renters who can't modify the wiring. On the flip side, if you're a homeowner who just needs a portable unit for occasional leaf blowing, a few nail gun bursts, or inflating tires, the QT10 is overkill. Its size and weight, about 1,300 pounds, make it a permanent installation rather than a tool you lug to the job site. A smaller, oil-free, single-stage compressor would meet those occasional needs without the extra space, power, and cost. In that sense, the QT10 is not a one-size-fits-all solution, it's a purpose-built workhorse. Now, let's dig into some practical strengths that matter after the box is opened. First, the motor's 3-phase design gives you smoother torque delivery. In real terms, you'll notice less jitter when you run a high-flow tool like a sandblaster. The air pressure stays steady, which means the abrasive media doesn't fluctuate, leading to an even finish. Second, the horizontal tank design reduces the footprint compared with a vertical tank of the same volume, which frees up floor space, something you'll appreciate in a cramped shop. Third, the splash lubricated cylinder means you won't be hearing a constant clatter of metal on metal. The oil film dampens that sound, making the environment more tolerable for anyone who spends 8 hours a day in the same room. No product is without its quirks, and the QT10 is no exception. The most common practical weakness is the initial setup. Because it's a three-phase unit, you'll need a qualified electrician to wire it correctly, and that can add a few $100s to the total cost. Also, while the splash lubrication reduces wear, it does mean you'll have to check oil levels periodically, something you don't have to think about with a truly oil-free model. That maintenance isn't complex, but it does add a small ongoing task to your routine. Finally, the compressor's size means you'll need to dedicate a permanent spot for it, and the intake and discharge hoses need